Over here to introduce our panel. For any of you who weren't here the first hour, this is Taryn Hiatt. She's from the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. We've got Doran Williams here. Doran is married to a wonderful wife and is the father of 4 adopted biracial children who have brought much growth, challenges, and love to their home. He received his master's degree from BYU in social work in 1988. He has also worked for Wasatch Mental Health since 1988. He's worked in a variety of programs such as adult day treatment, adult and youth outpatient department, and he's been the program manager over intensive residential treatment, inpatient, hospital, jail, and after-hours crisis services for approximately 8 years. He was also the director of Children and Family Services for approximately 6 years, and he is currently the Associate Director, Corporate Compliance Officer, Chief Operating Officer. He's also been a co-editor and written chapters in some books, very many books, and has been in training videos, been on the social work board for Division of Occupational Professional Licensing, and he's been a certified crisis counselor since 2011, and he's been involved with the Hope Squads and Hope for Utah in various capacities for the past 18 years. And we also have Dr. Klint Hobbs from the BYU Counseling and Psychological Services. He received his BS from Utah State University and his PhD in counseling psychology from BYU. Following graduation, he and his family moved to Texas, where he worked as a psychologist for Texas Tech University for 10 years. They recently moved back to Utah, and he has done QPR, suicide prevention training, for over 9 years, and has coordinated suicide prevention efforts on Texas Tech and BYU campuses. He is happily married and has 4 children. So these are our awesome panelists. Again, texting your questions. We have our moderators over there, Sarah Boren and Ashley Allen, MSW students in our BYU social work program. So keep texting in questions and we will get this started.
Okay, so we're going to start out with a question that we received just this morning. So our first one, and we'll just submit it to you guys, and whoever wants to start, you can just go ahead and start. And if one of you guys wants to add to something else, we're totally open to that. So our first one is, how do you know when someone has plans and should go to the hospital?
Who's calling?
I think you can go back to what Taryn talked about this morning, is you gotta have a conversation with them. Find out where they're at. Do they have a plan? And what kind of plan is in place? Do they have means to what's going on? I think before, you can call one of the crisis lines that are out there and talk with them first. Again, they can be a resource to talk about where the client's at. So I think there's a lot of factors. It's not an easy, one simple, this is when you do a checkbox, take and go. But there again, have a conversation. Do they have the means? And stay with them. Go with the crisis worker. At Wasatch we have a receiving center. Someone can walk in and have an evaluation done, and they can determine at that point from someone that's done crisis to figure out, can we deal with it now? Do we need an inpatient or a secure unit? And really, in my mind, the only reason for a secure unit is to keep the person safe. That's what it's for. I had someone that went through that process that really nailed it on the head for me, that said, you know what, when I went into inpatient and came out, I always thought I'd be fixed. Because that's what we do physically. If I have a broken arm, they go in, they fix my arm, they fix my kidney stones, whatever, I come out well. But for mental health, they go in for that safety piece, and then they're come back out to outpatient for actually the treatment to continue. Because that's that part that Taryn talked about, the environment, that triggers what else is going on. And so I think there's a lot of factors, but you don't have a conversation, get to know the person, contact the crisis either by phone or walk in person, and be able to have an evaluation done of what needs to occur. There's a simple answer. It could go on forever, but it's simple.
I think I would add to that just a little bit too. I love what everyone said there. What I would say too, though, is if you take somebody who's having suicidal thoughts, who's maybe it's not imminent, they're thinking about it, they don't want to do it, but those thoughts are bouncing around in their head, they still need to talk to somebody. I think sometimes we can get caught up in doing kind of a comprehensive suicide assessment ourselves, but what I recommend to people is if you've got somebody that's hit a point of pain in their life where suicide starts to come into the picture, they need to talk to somebody. Let's get them help at that point. It may not be as urgent as we're talking about here, but But they need that help there too.
Thank you. The second question is, why keep going if your depression has been going on a worsening trend for 5+ years?
Well, I would say if it's a worsening trend, then obviously maybe it's the medication, maybe there's something that you're experiencing that isn't working. If you're not seeking relief, you're not experiencing relief, then something in that treatment plan needs to change. And it's difficult. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy. There are some experimental testing that's started to happen. It's called pharmacogenics. It's not been approved yet through the FDA, but I know multiple people who have utilized it where they can actually do a DNA swab of your mouth and help to identify what medications your body metabolizes best. I have an aunt who is resistant to all antidepressants. She's had to resort to ECT and some other treatments, but it's difficult. We're not there yet, but it just means that I would explore other options and see what other treatment options are out there, because maybe what you're currently doing just isn't working, and it might be time to investigate some other option to find some hope and some help.
Turned it off, here we go.
Okay, our next question is, how do you help when help isn't wanted?
I think the biggest thing is being able to say, you know what, I'm here. I'm not here to fix you, but I'm here to be with you. And I don't care if we sit in silence and do nothing, but I'm going to stay. We're going to have this connection that's here and be able to just sit with them. Because there again, as Taryn said, behavior is behavior is behavior. And being able to say that they don't want it, there's also something else going on. And is it trust? Is it they're not comfortable? Is they scared to talk? Because there again, who do you talk to? If I'm thinking of suicide, I can't go talk to my neighbor. I can't go talk to my whoever, my friend. How are they going to accept me? Probably the biggest fear people have is if I start talking with the S word, suicide, how would you react? And if you go shock and awe, then they're saying, okay, I don't want to put pressure on you. I don't want to hurt you because I'm concerned about you. And so they withdraw. And so part of it is our reaction. Part of it is just saying, hey, I'm here to be with you, and I'll sit with you. And that's what we need to do.
One of the things that I recommend that people do in a situation like that is, if you don't want to talk to me about it, that's fine. I'm not the one that will help you. But who? Who in your life would you trust? Who in your life would you trust enough to talk about this? And can we reach out to them and maybe let you talk to them? The best suicide prevention that we talk about is built on that safety net approach, where one person's not responsible for keeping another person alive, where we have a network of people that can step in, that can support, and that can help. And so oftentimes when people say that they don't want help, that's a product of depression. I feel isolated, I feel alone, and I feel hopeless. But who else can we access that might be able to help just a little?
Thank you. How do I cope if I have felt prompted to reach out to someone, didn't follow through, and later learned that they died by suicide the next day?
So when we know better, we do better. And so then the next time, you have that prompting, you'll hopefully act on it. Again, we can't beat ourselves up for what we didn't know. We probably didn't know that that's what that person was doing. And those are the hard lessons that unfortunately unravel, in suicide loss and in death. So again, instead of being hard on yourself, which it's difficult not to be, try to find forgiveness for yourself. And then if you have that opportunity again, you'll know to maybe reach out and say something. But I just would say be gentle with yourself. We don't always know. And we just got to be kind, and then again, use it as an opportunity for the next time I feel that same experience, that maybe my reaction will be different.
Thank you. What is BYU and Utah doing to help especially LGBTQ and other minorities?
Yeah, so I can definitely speak to BYU. Students at BYU who identify as LGBTQ can come to the counseling center. That is a place, there's some misperception there about how confidentiality works at the counseling center here at BYU. In fact, I heard somebody talking the other day about one of their LGBTQ friends who said, I'm hesitant to go to the counseling center because is that going to get kicked over the honor code? What's going to happen? You need to understand that the counseling center here at BYU, we work for BYU, but we're licensed by the state of Utah. which means we're bound by the state of Utah confidentiality statutes and codes. What that means is that short of 3 exceptions that would involve child abuse or harm to somebody else, what you say in counseling stays in counseling. You don't share that with anybody else. That means President Worthing could call us and say, tell me about so-and-so who I know is doing counseling there. And we'd have to say, I can't even confirm or deny that that person's here. So we're legally bound to maintain that confidentiality. We also, we run groups for LGBTQ folks these are therapy groups at BYU's Counseling Center. We've got 4 groups currently going. These are very popular groups, very affirming therapists. It's a safe place to come here on campus. I can't say that strongly enough, but it really is.
That's awesome. I'll just share at a state level, there's been a lot of work, especially this last legislative session, to really ensure, protections for LGBTQ individuals. One, starting with the hate crimes law that was passed, that again will offer protections, in enhancing penalties for individuals who are targeted simply because of their gender identity or sexual orientation. We also passed a bill through stimulus and suicide prevention amendments, so it's going to require now that in part of our youth protection seminars, when we go out and we do these classes in schools, that we're teaching content and really educating our community about LGBTQ specific, but also teaching what's called the Family Acceptance Project. And again, that's what we know. Regardless of your belief system, we still need to love and accept. An LGBTQ individual, if they feel accepted and loved by the people who are closest to them, that is a protective factor, so we need to build upon that. We also introduced legislation this year that would ban the practice of conversion therapy for minors. Unfortunately, that bill had to be circled because of the sub that came out of it. And really what it showed us is, again, the lack of education within our community, that people still feel that this is something that can be changed and should be changed. And we know that that's not true. All the data tells us that any effort to change sexual orientation is harmful. There's nothing that supports that it is a beneficial practice. So we, again, back to the drawing board to continue to educate within our communities. I would just say I would highly encourage anyone who is either of the LGBTQ community or has friends or family that you're worried about or want support to, connect them to Encircle. That's one of the greatest resources here in Provo. We've got a house, got one up in Salt Lake, the Pride Center. Again, connecting with other individuals who share your same, similar belief system values so that you can find support somewhere. So we have a lot of work to do, but we're working on building up a better informed community, and I think that's the best approach to start with, is getting the education out so that we create spaces of safety for people.
Thank you. How can you tell when people are overcoming suicidal thoughts and not just hiding the thoughts? If they are hiding suicidal thoughts, what do you do?
It's interesting, I think, especially in LDS culture, we talk about overcoming everything.
Yeah.
I gotta overcome sin, I gotta overcome temptation, I gotta overcome suicidal thoughts, I gotta overcome mental illness. And I think sometimes, not to go too much of a rant about this, sometimes we live with. Sometimes we manage and we cope. Suicidal thoughts, like suicidal ideation, is always the product of something else. When life is going the way we want it to, we feel content, connected, happy. Taryn was talking about, we don't consider suicide. That's not on the table. So the presence of suicidal thoughts, in my mind, always indicates that there's pain, that something is going wrong. When we talk about this idea of how I know if they're overcoming suicidal thoughts or just hiding them, a lot of times we don't. We approach this as directly as we can. We be caring, non-judgmental, and a loving resource, and we trust people to be open with us when we act that way. All the while acknowledging they've got agency. Like, they can ultimately choose what they want to do with that. I've seen that the vast majority of individuals who are considering suicide are willing to talk about it when we address it directly and non-judgmentally. They'll talk about it. So yeah, I think that's what I think.
And I would just say, as somebody, who obviously, because I attempted suicide multiple times in my teens, that was also a behavior that I reinforced because I acted on my thought. So absolutely, I still have sometimes those thoughts come back, and he's absolutely right. It always comes when there's a period of pain. And so I definitely live with and manage those thoughts. I know today what to do when I have those thoughts. I know who I can reach out to. I know who I can share it to. And there are some individuals I would never because of their reaction. Okay, I already know what that reaction will be. So I worked on creating that safety net. I know who I can share those things with. And again, I think that's just something we can all work on as individuals, is being that person that can be the non-judgmental. We practice our poker face when people tell us stuff. I was a hairdresser for 20 years. I had a great poker face because I had to look in the mirror as people told me stuff and make sure my face wasn't doing what I was thinking. But, you know, those are all things that we can practice with each other. It's just, you know, being okay to be uncomfortable. Being okay to sit with a person in a really ugly moment and not having to fix it. When you can be that person for somebody else, you really provide that connection and that safety.
I'd add one more thing, that there again, the suicidal thoughts come and go. They're not there constantly. And if you look at some of the research in the general population, most of us may have had a suicidal thought. We may not have labeled it that way, but it may have been that I'm driving down the road going, gee, I saw it in the movies how the car flew over the edge. I wonder what that feels like. Okay? We wouldn't say that's suicidal, but that's really the definition. And so I think there again, it comes and goes. Because keeping that thought alive and going takes a lot of energy. And physically, energy-wise, we can't maintain it forever. And so being able to realize that some of those are normal, and let's talk. Let's reduce the stress, what's going on, go back to the pain that's behind it, and let's talk about it.
Awesome. We have a question about what role does social media play in suicidality?
A big role? Well, because if you look at it, especially the teenagers do, that device, what do we put on social media? How many of you ever put on social media that, gee, I had a crappy day? My hair didn't work, you know, mine never does. You know, my got in a fight with my mom. We don't put that stuff on social media. What we put up there is that I went to Hawaii. We had a beautiful reunion. Everything that's the 10-point scale, we're always the 10 that's showing, because that's what we want to present. We never show the part of reality of where life is. And so it's a kind of a deceptive piece there. That there again, all my friends were invited to this party. I must not have got it, so I must not be okay. And so I think there's a misconception of what we think social media is and how we interpret it. And so it plays a role, especially with the shame, the guilt, am I connected or not? I have a million friends. How many have I really met? Do I know the names? Have I been to their house? You know, when Taryn talked about safety plans, when you work with teenagers, please, when they say, well, I'll call Bob. Who's Bob? What's his last name? Have you met him face to face? Have you been to his house? If they haven't, that's not a friend they'll call. Okay? And as you do safety planning, the other part to remember is most of us, when we're in a crisis, I don't want to put a burden on somebody. I don't want to be a burden because I think of suicide every day. And so what else can you do? You know, can I go to some public place? Can I walk around Walmart? Can I go to a high school activity and sit in the crowd and know that I'm safe there because nothing's going to happen, even though I'm not really there to the activity? And so finding other ways, we don't have to feel like we're a burden on other people. We can do other things that give them activities. We forget that piece when we talk about safety planning, that we want to be able to. And we've done safety planning, folks. You guys have done safety planning most of your life. How many have done with either teenagers or have daughters that when they went on their first date, you say, hey, if there's a problem, text me, or I'll text you halfway through just to check on you. That's a safety plan. Sometimes we want to make it more complicated than what it really is. And so there's a lot of things we can do in that piece to make it a normal part of life.
I would just add really quick on the flip side of that. So social media is a world of extremes, right? We don't post the mundane. It'd be cool if we did, but we don't, because I think that would normalize it. Like 90% of life is just kind of normal days, right? But I think for somebody who's maybe on that suicide spectrum, they're thinking about it or maybe even planning it, again, this is somebody that most likely very much wants help. That is very afraid of fear, rejection and judgment. They're afraid that if they tell people or if this gets out, people are going to judge them or look down on them. And so we post things on social media that we never say to somebody's face directly. I think there's a little bit more anonymity there than there really is, because everybody can see it. But I think sometimes what you'll start to see is those suicidal communications coming out online. People start to post stuff about it and look for it. And those are warning signs. I mean, those are like, they're on that journey at that point. We're going to want to ask about it and talk about it. Whereas it's a little bit more rare to get that face to face and have somebody to say it to you.
Thank you. I'm hesitant to refer people to the CAP Center because of the long wait list. What is being done to help with that?
Excellent question. I think in the wake of the suicide that happened on campus in December, there was a lot of media narrative created, and I think CAPS got scapegoated in a sense. And what it came down to is CAPS doesn't help anybody. They're just super, super long ways. It's true for individual therapy, we have a long wait. There are a lot of people here at BYU that want counseling, and we're scrambling to get as much counseling as we can to as many people as we can. There are plans that are in place to hire some new therapists. We've got things that we're trying to increase capacity that way. What you need to realize, though, is that if you turn CAPS away as a place, if you see it as a place that can't help in a suicide crisis, you're missing out on a resource there. Because we do walk-in crisis appointments all day long. So if you have a friend that's in a suicide crisis, walk them to us. A counselor will meet with them, we'll do an assessment, we'll figure out what that next step needs to be. We have a case manager that works for us. Just a year or so ago, we approved for a case manager. Her sole job is to connect people with mental health resources out in the community if they can't wait with us. I believe she can pre-op for DMDA insurance. She connects with all the other insurance. She knows providers. She knows insurance companies. She will work with students to get them set up where they need to be. You also need to realize that treating suicide is not strictly done through individual counseling. That's not the only way to do that. There's a lot of different ways to do that. We have group therapy there, not limited on that. We can get students into groups. We've got stress management resources there. We've got a biofeedback lab to teach people how to manage stress and kind of reduce that. We have a lot of different resources there. And so don't be turned away because you may not be able to get individual counseling through us. Come see us and let us connect you with other resources or even pull you into some of the other resources we offer.
Awesome, thank you. What advice do you have for professionals who have lost a patient or for people who have lost their loved ones?
I would go back to being able to the self-care. It goes back to the should I, what I, could I, should I have done. Because the reality is if we stay in the profession we're in, it's not if but when one of our clients will take their lives. It really is. Because that's the kind of work we do, and sometimes we forget we really deal with life and death. I'm part of my job at Wasatch is I review every death of every client in Wasatch. And if it's related to a suicide, then we do a psychological autopsy that I do with the group or team that's worked with them. And that's part of it is let staff understand we're human. We feel, we connect. And when that connection's broken for whatever reason, that whether it's a suicide, whether it's a death of natural causes, or whatever, there still is a loss and a grieving process we go through, even though, quote, we're the therapist, that we still go through. And being able to talk with colleagues, be able to talk with folks, you need the same ability to do that as you do tell your clients, what you tell other family members, whatever. Those are basic skills that we all need as being human. That we lose a connection, we have that connection lost for whatever reason, that we need that grieving process to go through. And we all do it differently. And so being able to let yourself go through that, realize that you're human, that you also need to take your own medicine and think of some of the stuff you talk about clients with that you should internalize. And if need be, talk to another therapist, connect with a professional to do that.
And I will just add, AFSP is a resource. Now on the table, I've got some brochures and different things. Our website has got great, again, books for resource or lost survivors, support groups. We have over 16 support groups across the state now, where when I lost my dad, we had one. So that's incredible, connecting with other individuals. Caring Connections up at the University of Utah does a specific suicide loss group. It's an 8-week closed group. It's so beneficial. We offer outreach visits where we can come and meet with you if you request a visit, one-on-one, where you meet with other lost survivors. We try to pair the lost together, so if it's a parent that lost a child, we send a parent that's lost a child, so that you can, again, be connected to support right away. There's tons of different things within the community. Hope for Utah does their beautiful Hope Walk here in Provo. We do an Out of the Darkness walk. Again, these are opportunities to honor your loved one, to be able to share their story, say their name out loud, remember them. And then again, we walk in honor of them, and we try to keep that memory alive in a positive, healthy way. So I would just say AFSP's got some great lost survivor resources as well. But get connected, because grieving it's a journey, man. Don't do it by yourself. Take others along for the ride.
I want to just throw something in real quick, so I've talked a lot. But so in the wake of the suicide that happened on campus on December, and I keep referring that because people on campus still feel that. We're not far enough away that that's even, I think, faded that much. But in the wake of that suicide at CAPS, we saw 200 crisis appointments over the course of 2 weeks, above and beyond what we already had scheduled on the books. People were just coming in to talk about this. And it was interesting, like I would sit with people that were impacted by it. These were not people that witnessed it. These were not people that knew the person that jumped. They had no personal connection to it at all, but they would come in and they would say to me, I feel guilty, and I don't know why that is. Like, why do I feel guilty for this? You need to understand the trauma response that happens in the wake of suicide. That is a traumatic event for everybody. And the trauma response there is to feel accountability and guilt, even where maybe we didn't have any. What our brain is doing in that situation is it's scrambling as hard as it can to reestablish a sense of control. If I can feel guilty for this, there's a reason for it. I could have done something, and in a really strange way, that makes me feel a little bit more at peace with the world, because I can avoid this in the future. We hate feeling helpless. Our minds don't go there. So you see these survivor guilt, the guilty reactions, what should I have done, I'm going to blame myself, all that stuff starts to play out. And it's helpful just to kind of recognize where that's coming from in the immediate. Like that's a normal reaction, it's not a pleasant one, it'll fade over time, and the reality of the situation is suicide is always a complex and multifaceted phenomenon. There's never like one cause where we can point and say that's why. And I'm sure you're inside about autopsies, you see it's always a confluence of a lot of different things that happen.
The other thing I want to quickly add is let them feel what they feel.
Yeah.
You know, my wife's brother took his life, and part of it is that she was angry with him. She wanted to kick him in the butt for doing it. She wanted to hug him and just love him. But those emotions are so mixed. It's not a simple thing. But they really feel a lot of emotions at once. It really gets confusing for a lot of people. And they'll feel angry. They'll feel love. They feel shame. They feel guilt. I mean, it's a tug of war going on inside of them. And that's part of saying, it's okay. Be with it. You know? It's okay to say whatever you want to say to the individual. It's okay to turn around and say, hey, I wish you were here. I'd like a hug. There's emotions that will go into them, and understanding it's okay to be where you're at and be there with it, to go through it. Don't try to understand it. Just let it be.
Thank you. Okay, with autism or OCD, if suicidal ideation is the constant or obsessive thought, how do you help clinicians see that or help a person manage it outside of institutions?
I think, Derek, just because the word suicide's in there, stop and see what it's about. Stop and understand the context of what's going on. Okay? Just because the thoughts of suicide there doesn't mean they're going to act upon it. That it's okay to be there with them. And if the thoughts are connecting in your head, what other thoughts are going on? There again, the suicide thoughts isn't going to continue. Other ones will kick in. And so be there with them. Let them be able to talk it out. Because that's one of the things that people forget is that if we have a secret or a concern going on inside of us, the more we hide it, the more it builds up, the energy's there inside. And the more we can release it and talk. It's a way of releasing that frustration, that energy inside, and we're able to kind of reduce what's going on, what we're feeling. And so either way, let them talk about it. Help them direct in what it really means or what's happening. Because just because the thought's there doesn't mean every time you're going to act upon it that you're going to do it. But the thought can come and go. And what do you do with it? And allow them to be there. Because there's other thoughts. If they have OCD or autism, there are other things going on that you can then distract or connect differently, but help them not get so fixated on it, but learn to do some thought changing, some what's going on that they need to do.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of that. Just that the question's a little unclear because are they thinking about suicide because they've had OCD for a long time and they are kind of at the end of the road? Or are they thinking about OCD because this is an intrusive thought? Or thinking about suicide because this is an intrusive thought that comes as part of the OCD. And I work with people that think about suicide a lot because it's very distressing. It's like it's distressing thought. They really don't want to do it. And they're not, that's not really in the cards, but they can't stop thinking about it, and that is very distressing to them. And it's interesting, like, we tend to think more about emotionally charged things. I mean, I can have 6 thoughts up here on the stage, and the thought that stresses me out the most is the one my mind's going to stick with. I thought about a purple unicorn 30 seconds ago. And I don't know if that doesn't cause me a lot of distress, that's okay. So, Taryn was saying, like, just having a thought doesn't mean you're going to do something. We have thoughts all the time. Now, if you're feeling the intention to act on a thought, that's where, again, we need to jump in and do something.
Awesome, thank you. What is a good age to start helping kids understand suicide, and what responsibility do schools have in that?
Again, age appropriate, especially with, on all aspects. We know that we've seen 10 to 5, okay, so there's never a too soon of a time to start talking to kids about mental health and distress and emotions and what do their feelings mean and how can they manage some of those. So there's never too soon of a time, and especially when you have somebody who has died from suicide in that conversation with youth, again, make it age appropriate. You can allow them to guide the conversation, but honesty we know is better. It's better to be truthful with them about what happened. I know, like in our family, some of the terminology used with our kids because they were little. But Grandpa's brain was just really, really sick, and Grandpa's brain had him believe a lie that he shouldn't be here anymore. His brain kind of helped kill him, and they understood that, and they called it a brain attack. But we were very honest. You'll hear a lot of families that maybe don't want to be honest right away because they're again afraid and feel like the terminology isn't appropriate. But really let the child guide the discussion. Because for them to have to find out later on, the grieving process starts all over again. And I'll just share quick, a resource on our website too is a great loss so it's for children and teens of suicide loss. It's written by the Dougie Center, who specializes in grieving children. It is a great resource. It'll give you kind of some framework and terminology for both kids and teens, especially as it relates to loss specifically.
I would think the other thing is you don't need the details.
Yeah.
Okay, stay out of the details. And there again, you need a relationship. If you don't have that relationship and you come in just with that, there again, you need that relationship and process along the way. So have a relationship with them. You talk about schools, what do they need to teach? But I think there again, it's a community, it's a village, we all need to be talking about it. It's not just parents, it's not just the schools. We all need to be able to have those conversations and make it normal. Make it ability to have those talks of what we need to talk about. It shouldn't be this secret thing we got to talk behind closed doors of. But we should be able to have an open conversation and say, hey, look, if you have these thoughts, let's talk. Mm-hmm. Whether it's suicide, whether it's being guilty or whatever it may be, those conversations need to be normal conversations we have. Because sooner or later, they will get hit by it, either by someone they know or someone they've heard about. If you have one in school, oftentimes people say, well, I don't want kids to know about it. Folks, they know. Mm-hmm. With social media, they know within minutes of what's going on. And either we be honest with them of what's happened, or all imaginations that go. And when you have an imagination, like mine goes to the extremes, it doesn't go simple. And so, there again, being able to be upfront. Because if we try to shame the word, or we try to shame the conversation, what are we really saying? We should be able to make a normal process. As you know in my bio, I've got 4 adopted kids. From day one, yeah, we talked about adoptions. We talked about you have more families that love you and care about you. Yeah, you're with us, but we made it a normal process of what's going on. Because they don't look like me, folks. But they need to be able to make it a normal part of their life. And so either way, it shouldn't matter what the subject is, we should have those conversations.
Thank you. Can you talk about the difference between manipulative suicidal threats and real suicidal intent?
I'll just say my 2 cents. Again, if a person is utilizing suicidal conversation, right, as a form of manipulation, I don't like that word. Because again, if that's the only tool they know how to use to communicate their distress, it means their toolbox is limited and they need to learn other tools, okay? So we take it seriously every single time. Again, if my reaction is the same and I'm consistent every single time, if it is a manipulation, if you will, they're going to learn that again, they're not getting the reaction that maybe they're looking for from that. It might change their approach. So being consistent with that is key. But again, I would be cautious not to view it as manipulative. Again, that might be the only way they know how. And if that's the case, then again, they need support and we need to help them learn other tools in which they can communicate their distress in a more appropriate way versus utilizing, suicide as that.
Yeah, I've been in the game for a while. I've been doing therapy for a long time, and I still don't trust myself at first glance to tell if somebody's manipulating or not. I take everything seriously. Just to really echo, if somebody said to you, "I think I might be having a heart attack," would you say, "You're not serious? I'm not calling 911." Like, you would do it, right? That would trigger an immediate response, and we would respond consistently the same way. Feeling like you have a heart attack always triggers, I'm going to call 911, I'm going to make sure that you're safe. Same sort of approach. Like, we're going to be consistent here. If you're going to talk about potentially killing yourself, that's going to trigger action that will save your life.
I think the other part you need to add is, there again, if someone's always talking about it, find out what's behind it. What are they meaning by it? Are they talking about suicide because that's how we get people to respond to me? That I get people to react? So let's have the conversation of, okay, you're talking about it when? What's bringing it up? What can we do to help kind of diffuse what's going on? What kind of plan do we need to create? How do we be open and honest about what's going on and figure it out? Because the sad part is, if you start labeling it, the one time you don't do it, and they follow through, or if things don't occur the way they plan, then where you at? And so you're better off to find out, have that tough conversation with them, and be open and honest about it.
Thank you. All right, what is the best way to help minors have a conversation with their parents about suicidal thoughts for the first time?
I'll just say a quick thought as a parent of teens. Again, I think it can look two ways. One is parents, we again get education, get some basic foundations for how you would want to respond, and what if your child came and shared that with you, what would your response be? And start those conversations. You know, if you're a youth and wondering, okay, how do I say it? I just tell youth all the time, be honest, you know, be brave enough, tell the truth, and tell as many people as you have to until someone takes you serious. Because oftentimes I'll do that, where maybe a parent might discount, or again, not because they don't care, but they might think it's something else, or they just said that to get attention and might blow it off. And then the young person needs to know that, okay, I don't stop there, I go tell somebody else. If it's a teacher, if it's a counselor, I tell somebody. But that bravery and that courage of being willing to be honest about where they're at is key. And then again, I think as parents, if we start laying the framework now, you know, I did that with my own children because of our experience. I knew that our kids, because of our dad, because of my own experience, suicide runs in families, I knew we had to have that conversation. So this is something we have always talked about. My kids have come to me and told me, and yeah, it's hard to hear as a mom, and I do the ugly cry in the car after, you know, but I'm so grateful that they know they can say with honesty, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm thinking, and then together we can work to what do we need to do to get you support and move through.
I would say, as a parent of teenagers too, like I've asked my children this question before, and what responsibility that puts on us as people who love people who are responsible for it, aunts, uncles, parents. I think it's not just talking about suicide, it's creating a context and an environment in which your children feel safe, and like you're not going to judge them. Working with this really interesting age group of college students who are trying to individuate and pull away from parents, but still want to believe somewhat, but like it's this really weird place, but there's still such a fear of disappointing and being judged by their parents. And if you created a context in which they don't feel like that's a threat, they're going to talk to you. You can ask about it and be honest.
I think most of us, whether we're teenagers or adults, talking on a tough situation, we give them a little bit of information. We throw out little keys to see how people are going to respond. And depending on how we respond, whether we give more or less. Having been in that situation when my daughter's come to talk to me about suicidal thoughts she's had, being able to have a conversation, say, okay, let's sit down, let's stop, what do we need to do? And be able to go through that process and give her support, figure out what we need to do, get her into some treatment, get her into some medication, understanding of the physical stuff going on besides the mental piece. Being open as parents. And that relationship that we've built along the way will either make it or break it. And so teenagers are going to give you little bits of time. They're not going to come out and just blow it up like this. They're going to get bits and pieces that are happening.
What do you recommend for caregiver burnout regarding being the support person for a suicidal individual?
I think you can't. You can't be that person. You might be able to for a little while, especially if they're just talking about it, but you've got to build a safety net. You've got to make this a sense of connection and caring that they feel from multiple people. You can't be there one.
Yeah, and again, you know, visit, get involved in a support group where you're with other caregivers who are experiencing the same thing. NAMI, you know, holds groups for families of loved ones living with mental health conditions and teaches classes again on how to support. Melody Beatty, okay, I'm a good codependent. I had to work through a process of learning how to, again, have boundaries and take care of myself despite what another individual is doing. You know, remember, it is not your job to help them, you know, to save their life. It's our job to help them save their own life, but they have to do some of the work too. So yeah, I would just go back to that. You can't be the only one. Building out, you know, other supports to help, and maybe a support group is a good start to help take care of yourself first.
I think the other piece to understand that if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be there for them either way. And so you've got to be able to take time, do some stress management, do some balance of work and life that isn't always the same. Because if you do, you won't last in our profession. For what we have to deal with and what goes on, you've got to find a way to be able to capitalize it, put it in a box, whatever your technique you use, and be able to have a life outside of that, and be able to have relationships outside of that. Doing activities, you know, as Taryn talked about those basics. Are we eating, sleeping, exercising, stress management? What are we doing to take care of ourselves? Because burnout becomes quickly. And there again, people say, well, I'm the only one for them. But if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be there for them either. And as Klint says, you've got to have a support system. You can't be it for everybody. It just doesn't work. And that doesn't help you, because your goal is to help them branch out, build other relationships, build that kind of support system for them. And so if you're the only one, staying the only one, look at your own issues going on. Look at the countertransference going on. Look at what are you doing, have some conversation with colleagues to be able to build up and check yourself.
Thank you. Another one about caregivers. How do you talk with someone who lost a loved one to suicide and they say that person was selfish?
Again, I think what you have to do is allow the person to have their experience. They'll work through it in their own time. You know, it's not our, trust me, I've had to have these conversations with my own siblings. You know, everybody's experience with the person who dies from suicide is different because all of our relationships are different. We have to allow each other to grieve the way we want to grieve and feel how we want to feel. My brother thinks my dad was a selfish, I can't even say, and I don't get to argue that with him. That was his experience. I can share my perspective, what I think, what I've done to help heal, but we have to allow each other our own journey through it. They'll come to it in their own time and space. Hopefully they'll want to, you know, maybe learn more and get to a place where they can, you know, forgive or whatever they need to do, but you just gotta allow people to have their experience even if it isn't yours. Dang, doesn't that just suck sometimes?
Yeah, I think, again, through the mindset of somebody who's considering suicide, we talk about kind of the idea of like tunnel vision. And so when we look from the outside and we say that was selfish, we're looking from a place where we can think pretty rationally, we're a cognitive place where we can process all the different factors that are kind of going on. But for somebody who's in the amount of pain it would take to actually end your life, that world has shrunk to like one option. And so they're not aware of other people. Like, they're not starting to think, well, I really shouldn't do this because it might inconvenience so-and-so and so on. You know what I mean? Like, if you had your hand on a hot stove, you would do anything you could do to get your hand off the hot stove. And you wouldn't think about why you needed to, you wouldn't think about who that was going to be, you would just do it. That's kind of the urgency that sometimes suicidal individuals feel. And it's hard from the outside looking in to see that.
I think that thing we need to remember is oftentimes when we're thinking that, it's our own defense mechanisms of trying to protect where we're at, what we're going through, that we're not ready to deal with where we're at, and so we kind of protect ourselves. And so there again, we need to give people time to grieve, to mourn, to go through their own journey, as Taryn just mentioned, being able to let them be where they're at. And slowly they'll get through it, but it'll take some time and working and being able to accept it.
Right, this next question, we've had a lot of questions along the same line. What advice or insight do you have to share with an LGBTQ plus individual who feels helpless and excluded from the LDS community?
I'll jump in. You know, first and foremost, I would just say I love you. You know, and again, you guys, I think that is, and I'm just Sandy on this, because I'm nothing but one of those. You know, I'm no longer a practicing member of the LDS faith, and that's okay. I did that because that was what I needed to do for my own mental health and well-being. And you got to do what's best for you. So, but we, as a culture here in the state of Utah, I think we have such potential to do such a beautiful job of making people feel accepted and included. So again, we just need to do a better job, regardless of our thoughts, regardless of our beliefs, of just providing spaces where people can feel loved and included. If you do not feel that space right now, again, I encourage you to visit places like Encircle and Pride Center. Let's find some people who you can rally with. I know there's student groups, you know, on campus, Gay Straight Alliances where you can become connected and become a part of. I wish I had a magic answer. I wish I could say that we could get the brains to open up and the minds to shift where we all understood this. It's a work in progress. We're making progress. We're getting there. Until then, just know that you are seen, you are loved, you are beautiful, you are perfect, just as you are. If you need somebody to tell you that every day of the week. But anyway, I just think we have a responsibility as communities. We can do better. We just provide love. Love, love, love. Love is the answer to that. But that's my 2 cents.
I think the other thing to realize here again, we lump everybody into one thing. We're individuals. Okay? We talk about all this community, but we're individuals. So there again, we're different even within that community itself. And so if you don't fill it with one individual, continue to search out. You'll find people that are different levels, different degrees of where they're at, where they're understanding that. But the basic core of where we're at is that we're all God's children. Are we not all brothers and sisters? We go back to the plain, simple plan, which means we need to treat each other as brothers and sisters and as human beings, irregardless of anything else, because none of us are going to be perfect in this life, none of us will be. But we can go back to the common goal that we're brothers and sisters, which means we need to be there with each other. Doesn't mean I have to condone what you do, what I do, whatever. It doesn't matter, because I'm sure they don't condone what I do half the time. But they're, as brothers and sisters, we can be there to be with each other and find some common ground and be able to sit with one another to go through this journey, because that's why we're here, is to go through the journey together.
Yeah, I really wish we were in a place in our society where we understood that judgment doesn't change people. What would it be like if we could just all accept each other for where we were at, who we were, and not approach anybody with an agenda? And I think when we talk about people not feeling accepted, if I don't feel accepted, it's because I don't fit in the mold that you want to go in. I don't meet your expectations of who I should be, which isn't fair to me. This does have particular bearing for suicide. Because when we feel less accepted, when we feel less of a sense of belonging in our communities, we're more likely to feel on the outskirts, and the odds for suicide go up. I do think, and I feel sad saying this, we chase affection and approval from sources that we feel like it should be forthcoming from, family, religious communities and stuff. And when it's not, sometimes we have to seek it elsewhere. Let's seek it. Like find those people that accept you and that love you and that embrace your potential.
Awesome, thank you. How common is it for college students to think about suicide?
You realize this is like 3 weeks before finals, right? There are statistics on this, and Shane said I'm not blanking on that proportion, but a high proportion of college students have thought about suicide. Now, saying somebody's thought about suicide doesn't really tell us where they're at on that suicide journey or anything like that. But we know just in terms of the factors that go into mental health and mental wellness in college, there's a lot of strikes against people walking in the door. Brains are still developing, not fully developed until about the age of 25. You're coming into a place, I teach in housing, and I use this analogy, like nowhere else in your entire life will you ever be expected to room with a complete stranger and just be okay with it. Right? But here it's like, yeah, okay, so I'm going to have to do that. So oftentimes I don't have a place where I feel like I can go and just be myself or be alone. Most college students will have a major relationship. Most college students will lose a major relationship while they're here. Plus, you have to figure out your life. You spend a lot of time and money to major in something that's going to be a career and hopefully sustain things. You can see that this is like a pressure cooker. They talk about most major mental illnesses emerge from like 18 to 24. There's a lot of reasons for that we just talked about. And so when we factor in brain development, biological factors, and all these situational stressors, absolutely that can put people in a place where they start to question, is this even worth it anymore?
Well, I think we've broadened it. There again, we look at transitions, we look at developmental stages. You know, when you talk about college students, you talk about the older adults, you talk about the 30 to 45-year-olds who's a high risk of suicide. You talk about youth. There again, there's transitions, there's relationships. It's part of us being human. That's what creates part of the system, part of the multifacet that brings on the thoughts of suicide. So I think it's a whole community.
Thank you. Can you speak to self-harm in relation to suicidality?
From personal experience. No, so I think self-harm is a really important thing to understand. Again, all behavior is an attempt to cope, okay? So self-harm for a lot of individuals is actually a coping strategy. We refer to it as non-suicidal self-injury because self-harm does not always mean the person is intent or has suicidal thoughts. You know, as someone who engaged in self-harm, for me it was a release. It did release endorphins in my brain, and I did experience a chemical change in my body when I did engage in that behavior, and so it did provide a sense of relief. It was a way for me to get out some of the frustration and the pain, and for visible things that people could see I was distressed because I didn't know how to talk. So it was a way that I could communicate my distress that I didn't know how to do verbally because I hadn't learned that skill yet as a teen. And so I think to be mindful of it. Is it an indicator that the person's in distress? Absolutely. Absolutely, it's an indicator, and we need to, again, find out the motivation behind the behavior. What is causing the behavior? Yes, it can indicate suicide, not always. For some, it's just a coping strategy that they have learned to employ, and again, it's an opportunity to help them find other more beneficial, and hopeful and not so harming coping strategies.
I would echo what you just said, but also understand that there again, oftentimes it's to say, it makes me feel.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm real now. Because otherwise I feel like I'm not part of my body, I'm not connected. But cutting, seeing the blood, makes me realize I'm connected. There's more to me than what's there. So I think there's a multifaceted, and usually suicide's not part of it. It can be, but usually there is a warning sign to say, hey look, I am in distress. I need someone to talk to. But it's a way of connection oftentimes too.
All right, thanks. I think we probably have time for one more. So we had several questions surrounding the topic of how to ask a friend if they're thinking about suicide, and then what to say to someone if someone brings up that they're contemplating suicide.
Well, I'll share my favorite question, because I'm a Safe Talk trainer, and Safe Talk provides one of the best frameworks I've ever seen for asking a suicide question. We want to normalize it, okay? We want to make this something that happens to other people. So usually if you've seen some kind of warning signs that are indicating as to why you want to ask, you name them. So it could be something like, sometimes when people miss work, or cutting themselves or engaging in this, it's because they're thinking about suicide. I wonder if that's true for you. Sometimes when people means it could be anybody. You're not personalizing it, you're not judging. And again, you're naming what it is you saw as the reason for asking, okay? And say the word, say suicide. If you don't feel comfortable saying suicide, say kill yourself. Words I would avoid would be saying things like, you're not going to hurt yourself, are you? Or even using, have you ever thought of hurting yourself? We want to get to the question of suicide, so using the term directly is important. And if they say yes, first thing I would do is say, thank you. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for telling me. Tell me why. I'm here to listen. And then just shush your mouth and listen.
I would agree. There again, remember, the good Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's the proportion we should use. To be able to also, and I tell people that someone says they want to hurt themselves, they want to kill themselves, they want to take their life, first thing you do is stop. Take a deep breath. Okay? Get yourself composed. Because a lot of us aren't willing to know how to react to that. And the first thing you don't want to do is react all shock and awe, because then they're going to shut down because it's not safe. But be direct, okay? And come across and say, I'm concerned about you. What can I do? Have you thought of taking your life? Have you thought of suicide? And be able to say, I'm going to be here with you. I'll sit with you. I'll help you get connected. I'm here with you because I'm concerned and I care about you. Be honest. Don't go into this false stuff because people know what's real and what's not. So a lot of reactions can depend, do you know the person? What's your relationship like? If there's some stranger, then be real with them still and say, okay, what can I do to help? Where do we need to get you? I'll go with you, I'll take you, I'll make that connection, because somewhere they thought you were trustworthy enough and safe enough to come talk to you. And so your next step is then, let's transfer that trust to someone else that you trust. And you give that handoff and connection if you're not able to handle it. And so that way there is ability to make that transition, that transfer, that connection, that trust that's there.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to you for asking the suicide question. I was just sitting here listening to that thinking, wow, I feel safe just hearing that. Yeah, and I'm not suicidal. So, just to kind of echo what they're saying, listen, be willing to be there to listen. We have this multitude of reactions that jump to mind when we find that somebody we care about is considering suicide. Shock, awe, a lot of anxiety, we can go from 0 to 60 really, really quick. The more you can kind of sit on that and just listen and hear what they have to say, they're going to be more willing to accept help. Overwhelmingly, what I've seen with people who are considering suicide is that they'll talk about it if you ask it directly, but they're not going to volunteer if you don't. So you've got to be open, upfront, and just very direct, in a sensitive way, but direct. You've got to just put it out there.
Thank you so much for your time and giving us your professional expertise on this. As a way of closing up, we have a live Facebook stream that's going on our event page. That's BYU Suicide Forum. If you could get onto that page and share this live stream, that would be very helpful in helping us start the conversation about suicide and spreading awareness. Also, we have a couple questions that we didn't get to that we'll answer on that page as well. So if your question wasn't answered, we will post some answers. And then additionally, if you have more questions, that suicide hotline that Taryn talked about, you can call and ask them questions as well. You don't actually have to be actively suicidal to receive help from them.
So it's on our Facebook event page, which is called BYU Suicide Forum. So it's public. If you just search that on Facebook, it should be the first thing that comes up. And we are so grateful for you guys. Can we get a round of applause for us?